everyone. Welcome to this week's Raqs Talks. I'm Perizaad.
I'm Faizeh.
And this week we have Heather. Yay!
Thank you so much.
Heather, welcome.
And so it begins.
So everyone, this week, it just so happens that the COVID numbers are spiking. So Faizeh and I have decided to be responsible and not film together. So bear with us. But Heather, thank you so much for agreeing to be on. Oh, we've wanted you on here for a long time.
Yay, thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Let's start out with what we ask everybody, which is, how did you get into this art form?
Well, like everyone who is a professional belly dancer, I went to class with a friend who didn't want to go alone. I shouldn't say everyone. I just say that I hear that story a lot. So I was in college. I was 21 and I had a friend that we always went dancing together and stuff. And Shakira was really becoming popular at that time. I remember we both were just in awe of her dancing, and she was like, hey, let's take a belly dance class. So I went. I actually ended up signing up for a class at my university, so at Portland State University. So that fulfilled my PE credit, thank goodness, because I kind of hate that. It's not, it's still true. So, and it was great. I loved it. I was hooked right from the beginning.
When I was in high school, my father was even the athletic director at my high school. But I hated basketball and volleyball. I hated all the sports that were available to me. So I did my best to avoid all of them. And but I went to a Baptist high school, so there was no dancing. So I could not take a dance class. And so I am not a disappointment to my parents, thankfully, because they themselves did not have a problem with dancing. But when I went to my 20-year high school reunion, everyone was like, oh, what do you do now? What do you do now? You know, and people are like, oh, I'm a lawyer, or I'm this or whatever. And I was like, I'm a belly dancer. And like, haha, no, really, what are you? And I'm like, haha, really? And so they voted me the person with the most unusual job. So you teach on Datura Online, right? I don't know why I act like I don't know that, because I subscribe. So, right?
Yeah. Have you heard of it? You've heard of it? Yeah, this website. Yeah.
And I love that you're on there, because when it first started, it was very fusion heavy, obviously, because it's Rachel Bryce, so that makes sense. But I really, really love that some of the videos that you have up there are discussing, you discuss rhythms on there, and you're not there advocating for it, but on a platform that tends to be heavy on fusion, I love that you are a voice of more traditional Egyptian style. So how did it come to be that did they just reach out to you, or did you reach out to them and say, hey, I'd like to be on this? How did that come to pass?
So Rachel lives here in Portland, and I have actually from the beginning, it wasn't until about 10 years ago that I really started to focus on Egyptian Raqs Sharqi specifically. Until then, really my background was in American cabaret, and then I also did tribal fusion and a little bit of ATS. So for the first, I started performing maybe professionally, I think 5 or 6 years after I had started classes. I was really exploring a lot of things, and I was living overseas. I was living in Japan, and I was in a tribal fusion troupe. I was dancing in Turkish restaurants. I was taking all of the workshops that I could take, because Tokyo is a huge city. So unlike Portland, everybody was coming to Tokyo. You know, I took with Tito and Rhonda, and anybody that came, anybody that was recommended to me that I didn't even know. When I moved back to Portland, it was right at the time that Rachel was moving to Portland, and so I was still fangirling over Rachel, even though I had just had my son. So I was sort of okay, what is it that I really love to do? It's really the Egyptian stuff. So I felt like I needed to just kind of focus on that aspect now that I was really busy. I took I took any workshop that she offered in Portland, and she did offer just a few here and there. So she knew me, and then we danced in the same show. It was kind of a mixture of styles show kind of thing. I think Datura Online was maybe a year or two old at that time, and she and her partner partner saw me dance there. And I remember the night because I danced to Lessa Fakir, which is like my favorite song, like all time, you know. I want to say it was maybe within the next 6 months, I had actually reached out to Datura Studio to teach just weekly classes there, not to be on Datura Online. In the meantime, I had heard from friends that were like, hey, you know, I shouldn't say friends. It was Sedona Soulfire, who I see all the time. I would see all the time. And she was like, Rachel just, you know, she said that she really loves your dancing. And I was like, oh my God. You know, and I was like, what? She's watching me. Like, and anyway, so I reached out to Datura Studio, and at the Datura Online teachers were the teachers of the studio. It was just literally like who taught at the studio teaches on Datura Online. And it was obviously a curated thing. And so I was like, I'm going to make a pitch. I've never done this before in my life. I'm going to make a pitch to teach just weekly classes at Datura Studio. And so I sent in my lesson plans, and they were like, you know, it just said, like, I went to school for teaching, so I do write lesson plans, and maybe these were a little more detailed than I actually write in real life. But, you know, they just really outlined exactly what my goals were and what I planned on teaching and how. And so in a way, I think it was just all of these kinds of things kind of came together, and that, you know, she liked my dancing. She had seen me in workshops, so probably also knew that I was, you know, in the community, and then saw that I could teach because I was very organized about it. And then, so not long after that, I got an email that was like, hey, we'd love it if you would be on Datura Online. And I was like, I can't do that. I have to do it. So it was like both of those things. I was like, my gut instinct was like, I can't, I must. So that was how that came, that's how that came about. Long story, sorry, but and I also took Rachel's 8 elements, so you know, we got to know each other more there and talk more. And you know, I love like taking all kinds of belly dance classes. I don't really take many classes outside of belly dance because I just don't, honestly, I'm not that interested in other stuff, I'm not gonna lie, but I am very interested in how people, especially as a teacher, approach the movements from different ways, and like what is it about like specific styles that make them the subgenres of belly dance that make them what they are. And that helps me, since I'm focusing on Egyptian Raqs Sharqi, to really, it's like, okay, well, in you know, tribal fusion, this is how this movement is executed. What makes it different from how I do it? And by learning the other way, I understand more about my way. So, and also I still am just a fangirl of Rachel Bryce, so I'm always like, you have a thing where you're going to tell people how you do what you do? Yeah, I'm going to sign up for that. And she really does care about the roots of stuff. When they asked me to teach on Detour Online, they did ask, you know, could you teach Egyptian specifically, and also could you teach a beginner's choreography, which after I made it and shot it, everyone was like, oh, so this is like an intermediate level choreography. And I thought, oh, yeah, maybe it is. Okay. It took me like another 6 years to make a beginner level choreography. But then after that, they were really like, you know, what do you think people need to know in order to do this style? I was like, they need to know the rhythms. And that was something that really helped me in the beginning. I had Hadia's Rhythms DVD. I don't know if you ever saw that, but she goes through them. And it was great. When I had that DVD, it like just unlocked so many things about the music for me. So I was like, I have to teach rhythms. And then once you start teaching rhythms, you have to talk about where they come from and the folkloric stuff behind them. So about the rhythms were a big project, actually.
I really appreciate your videos that talk about the rhythms. I'm fortunate because my belly dance mama taught us all the rhythms as we were progressing, and was very militant about making sure that we knew at least basic ones like a baladi and a saidi and kashlama, you know. So I'm very grateful that she gave me that foundation. But I certainly enjoy your videos with the rhythms. It's so crucial because that's one of the things that separates Middle Eastern music and also the dance, you know, it separates it from Western music and Western dance. So thank you.
Yeah, the rhythm is just so important to Middle Eastern. Like it's because they don't count. They don't count in Middle Eastern. Like if you were saying to Rhonda, I mean, sure, she's taught enough Westerners now that I'm sure she is familiar with our obsession with the counts 1 through 8. But like, I'm sure at first she was like, "What is 1, 2, 3, 4?" No, it's doom doom tek tek. What are you doing?
Like, yeah. So yeah, yeah, I mean, both of those things are important, but there's also so much going on in the music that you have to be able to strip away, the layers and just hear the rhythm. Not that you shouldn't, follow different instruments or be able to also hear the whole wash of everything coming together, but you have to be able to, as an artist, pick and choose, what am I going to interpret? What am I going to show off? And that's what's going to make you stand out, because you just can't chase the music around all the time. Nobody wants to watch you do that.
No.
Yeah, you have to be able to hear it all, and that takes time. I think that the music is your partner, so you have to be a good partner. Like, you have to be responsive to it. You have to take care of it. You have to trust it. Like, all of that stuff. It's not to be used. It's not like I hear a song and what am I going to do to this song? It's like, I hate it when people are like, what can I do to that? I'm like, whoa, back up. What do you feel? Does it move you? Like, that's the first thing. And then when you want to move, what comes naturally out of your body. So I think we miss that a lot of times, especially if you're a performer. You're just like, I'm looking for the song that I can do some cool stuff to. And it's like, that's so far from the purpose of the music. So yeah, I think just listening to a lot of music and understanding what you like will tell you a lot about who you are as a dancer.
It's really interesting to me that, like, not to chase the music, like you say, but like the need to feature these instruments just seems really apparent, because it's basic storytelling. It's like the musicians tell you right here in the song what to do. Just listen to the music, and like you said, let it be your partner.
I think that too, sometimes dancers, we put too much pressure on ourselves. Like, I'm dancing, so I have to perform and captivate the audience from start to finish. And it's like, the music, it's just, there's an energetic exchange with you and the music, with you and the audience, with you within yourself. I just think that this art form is just more sensitive than that. And I think that we miss the point a lot of times when we put that on ourselves. Like, we're responsible for everybody having a good time, especially if you're dancing with live music. No, you're not. There's like 5 other people that are also responsible. So, like, let them. It's a group effort, and I think that sometimes too, dancers, they don't give the audience enough credit, even if it's not a Middle Eastern audience, even if it's people who've never seen belly dance before. A lot of times what I see is that there's this presentation of tricks, because this audience doesn't know this stuff. So I gotta show them that it's cool and it's not, whatever they thought it was, or maybe I need to live up to what they think it is, which Lord knows what that is. I have definitely danced for audiences who I assume don't know much about belly dance, and I just do the same thing that I do for a native audience, and they're equally, usually equally interested, because again, it's about the connection to the music. And if you choose good music, you're fine.
So when this airs, you will be 3 weeks into a course that you said that you spent a long time researching and are really passionate about sharing with everybody. Can you tell us a little bit more about belly dance in America?
Yeah, so I'm actually calling it belly dance in the US, since, America is both North and South, and also Canada.
Better.
So. Anyway, belly dance in the US. Studying the history of belly dance is just a pastime, my life is surrounded by all the elements. When I cannot dance possibly anymore, then I read something about dance, or watch your YouTube videos or listen to music. So anyway, yes, I was realizing in my own classes, inevitably there would come a time in almost every single class where I had to give some background information about what we're doing. I would want it to take up longer, and so I would try to pepper it in while we're learning technique, keep dropping your hip on this beat while I tell you about the, So anyway, so I was like, what? I really just need to put this into a course. And I was really feeling compelled, especially since, the COVID-19 pandemic and all of the things that came with that, which is a lot of reflection, I think, in our social climate or in society, and doing anti-racism work and listening to people of color speak about their experiences. And in the belly dance community, that includes listening to native dancers speak about their experience. And so I want to say for the first 4 or 5 months, I just really attended as many lectures as I could, listened as much as I could, and just kind of shut up and just listened. What's going on here? Where's the disconnect, and what can I do about it? So what I am realizing, or what I decided, was I really couldn't continue to teach the general public belly dance technique without them having a foundation of understanding that this dance came here and then was pretty much, it was kind of bastardized, and it kind of became something else. You know, eventually immigrants from the Middle East came over with their music, and then there started to become more of a cultural exchange. But right from the beginning, it was pretty much like, here's this dance, and then the Victorian people, you know, era people of the time were like, whoa, hoochie coochie, that's crazy and terrible and also awesome. And, you know, and then there were all of these, all kinds of things happened, right? And so I really think that because I teach a lot of beginner classes, I have a responsibility to introduce people to the dance in a way that explains that, so that we know and can evaluate our own assumptions about what quote unquote belly dance is. And then you get to learn about the cultures and how cool it actually is. Maybe what you thought was cool, but what it actually is cool too. So there has to be some reconciliation, I feel like. And I just, in good conscience, couldn't continue to just teach the movement. So many dancers come for my 8-week session, and I would always say to myself, okay, I've got 8 weeks to introduce, you know, person off of the street to basic, because I primarily teach Egyptian now. So I would teach, you know, Egyptian culture, rhythms, that kind of stuff, but I really didn't address the American stuff and all of the baggage around it. You know, sometimes we would get, I might teach some veil, and then I would have to have, or I would get to have a speech about how this is not a veil, actually. And, you know, and that was really when I was like, wow, there's just so much that we have to unpack here. My little soapbox moment was always, please do not wrap yourself in it as if you were wearing hijab. In no way, shape, or form does a woman who chooses to wear hijab ever take it off in public, ever in a dance. So, you know, and then it'd be like, okay, now let's learn some moves. So it was always just a little bit like, and then I'd cross my fingers. I'd be like, oh God, I just hope they heard me. Yeah, so that's what a belly dance in the US is. But I also realized that I needed help. So I recruited a Mel Tafsut, who is a friend and a teacher of mine. And, you know, one of the first dances that Americans saw were the dances of the Ulad Nil. So she'll teach some of the history of that. And also she'll talk about colonialism and Orientalism and how those fantasies were already also there when the dance came. And so, you know, that influenced people like Ruth St. Dennis and on and on and on. So yeah, it's kind of a big project, but I'm excited about it. Kamala Al-Manzar, you probably know her, right?
We do.
She's amazing, and she is going to teach towards the end of the session and talk about, you know, her time in like the clubs and like how she saw the dance change. So she's been dancing for a long time. So yeah, I'm excited about that. I plan on teaching it regularly. It's actually something that I am going to require people to take before they take anything else with me. I figure that I have enough material on Datura Online that if people really just want to learn some dance moves, that they can rent those videos and learn them. But if they're going to be interacting with me in a live setting, then we need to have a common base of knowledge that we can refer to, so that when I say something like, we're going to do some veil work, I don't have to tell the whole backstory.
Right.
So that's the plan. And so yes, by the time that this airs, we'll be into it. So if you have questions, put them in the comments. I'll try to pop back in here and I'll let you know how it's going.
That sounds really amazing.
That just sounds amazing.
Selfishly, I'm disappointed that it's sold out, so I can't sign up for it. But hopefully I'll get to take that series in the future, because that sounds really, really amazing.
Yeah, I mean, I would like, there's so many guest teachers that I would like to have, some of whom I don't know personally, so I have to get to know them probably before I ask them to do my thing. But but yeah, I would like to, you know, every time I teach it, have, you know, different teachers and start to really fill out the knowledge base, you know, especially since we do have such great resources who, you know, can still come and talk to us about it and have discussions about it. I think that's also there's a lot of material that you can read about the history of belly dance in the US. But I find that I get a lot out of processing through discussion and processing through movement. So if I can put the movement on my body and then understand how it changed or why it changed, as a dancer, that just makes so much more sense to me.
One of the things that has come up in 2020 is you have recently changed your branding and changed how you wish to be addressed in the dance space. And I think that probably came, I mean, I'll let you talk about it, but I'm sure that probably came from what you were just talking about earlier, just listening to other people of the culture and how they felt about white ladies using names of the culture.
It was something that I had thought about. So much of the way that I approach dance these days is to be authentically myself. So I'm really not trying to put on a persona. I did in my early kind of performance days, because it got the stage fright. I was able to cope with stage fright by acting like I was somebody else. At a very basic personal level, calling myself Henna just didn't make sense anymore. And even with introducing myself sometimes as Henna felt a little silly. I don't know. It was just starting to feel not authentic. That was one thing. But yes, the thing that really pushed it further was in listening to native dancers speak about how, my whole life I've had this name that nobody could pronounce. And when I dance, me choosing to be seen as a dancer comes with a lot of repercussions from my family. It comes from a lot of sacrifice, personal sacrifice. It comes from sometimes it's dangerous. I don't get to just go home and have a different name. When I go to the bank, I have to go through a whole thing that, I have an Arabic name or whatever, so I realized that the name for them is not a costume. And for me, it really was. And it was also what I was noticing just in a lot of conversations online and in lectures, and the way that I was feeling. I'm just not a big, let's talk about the same things over and over and over again. Let's do something. I'm much more of a take action, take little steps, whatever needs to happen, but just step forward and just keep stepping forward. And so I just felt like it's time anyway. And yeah, out of what I'm hearing, I hear the hurt in some of my friends' voices that, that they don't like that. People have the privilege to just wear this name and then take it off and go back to being Jenny and living a, quote unquote normal life without stereotypes and racism. Yeah, so I decided to drop Henna as a stage name. However, my company, my website is Henna Dances, and so my company name is Henna Dances, but it's owned by me, Heather. And so it felt good to do that, actually. It just felt right in a lot of ways. And I know everyone has their own name story and how it came to be. But for me, really, I chose that name because I felt like I needed a stage name. It wasn't given to me by somebody of the culture or something like that. It was just a very kind of, everybody that I knew, all of my teachers had Arabic names, and it was kind of a big thing. I'm going to choose an Arabic name, or my teacher's going to give me one, or something like that. And that just was never the case for me. It was really just something that I chose because I thought that I needed it. And now that I realize that it's harmful to people actually that I know and love, it was easy for me to just be yeah. They weren't calling me Henna anyway. That's what was really funny. I was okay, I get it. You're not going to call me by that name. But yeah, I mean, at the same time, I know other dancers who, feel good about it. So I'm not here to say that I don't think people should have those names. That's just where I'm at currently. But the thing is, it's my last name. I don't want people to know because we're, creepy creepers. So there's a lot of Heathers out there. So I've been using my middle name, which is Louise. I still put Henna in the middle usually when I'm performing because I'm in transition period.
You're Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson right now. Soon you'll be Dwayne Johnson, but right now you still need to be Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. And it's funny because we also talked to Amy Sigil, and she talked about how she spoke about where she was talking about when she was speaking with the Native Americans. They said, well, you use tribal when you don't know your name, so what's your name?
Yeah, I think I watched her talk with you all, and I liked a lot of the things that she said. And something that she mentioned too that Donna Mejia has mentioned is just let's just be more clear. Just be more clear about what we're doing and about who we are. It's not that you need to change what you're doing. You just need to be more clear about what it is that you're doing. And that's when people that's why feathers are ruffled, is because we're calling things that they aren't, or we're just not clear about it. So I appreciated her mentioning that. And yeah, Donna Mejia is amazing, and I strive to have as much poise and knowledge as she does, especially on these tough things. Yeah.
It's been a rough, 2020 was rough. But if we're going to look for the silver lining, one of the things is we started talking about these things so much more at length. I think it's a really good thing because it helps us do some self-reflection. We've had time to do self-reflection. So I think it's really great. And back to your course, I'm excited to see how that goes, so that, it's just, I think that's a really great thing.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm excited about it. I'm excited to see how it goes also. But yeah, it's needed, and I think people are excited about it because it's full. I didn't want to have a huge group, especially the first time teaching it, so I limited it to 20, and it's full now. So I was wondering if I should do another one at the same time. Can I really manage that? Let's be realistic, Heather. But it might be the time to do it, actually. Just dive all the way in. But yeah, I am happy that everyone, or a lot of people, are thinking about these same things and wanting to dig into it. So I think that, I know for myself, I was at a point, a lot of my friends similarly, where I was like, well, maybe it's time to just retire or to move. I wasn't sure what to really do, not because of this issue, but just a lot of things. And it was kind of, there are things in the belly dance world that I don't like. And sometimes if you focus on them, it can really, make you feel like maybe this is not where I belong anymore, that kind of thing. But I realized that that's a really privileged thing to do, actually, to leave. And before I do that, I gotta do some work that needs to be done. I love belly dance, Raqs Sharqi especially, but and I want people to continue doing it because it's given me, it really is why I am who I am. The positive things, the community of women, the movement, the music, being able to dance for and with cultures who have this amazing music and who love it and appreciate it and love dancers. Those are all of the things that I try to focus on. That's where I thrive and what I live for. So I want people to come to the dance. I always said I don't care how people come to the dance. I just want them to come, whether it's through fusion or whether it's through folkloric stuff, whatever. Just come, and then we can have these conversations, because it is another thing that if you do, you learn the name of a rhythm and then you learn the folkloric step to it, and then you learn that, then it got put onto a stage. What was that about? You get to learn some of this history, and maybe hopefully you get to go to a restaurant where there are Middle Eastern people who hear the music, and you see how they respond to it, and you get to be a part of that experience. And all of that stuff, if you're not of the culture, you get to come up against yourself sometimes, and be like, wow, this isn't what I thought it was. These people aren't who I thought they were. So if you are thoughtful about it and you have good guides, I think it can be a very enriching experience for anybody.
Aside from belly dance in the US, what is in store? What's up next for Heather?
Yeah, I do teach some technique classes during the day West Coast time, and they're just 30-minute classes, so I call them stop, drop, and drill. So it starts at 9:30 to 10 is finger cymbals. I've been learning Sagat technique with a percussionist in Egypt, Haney Morgan, so I'm teaching that so that I have to practice too. And Faizeh, that's what we do as teachers. What do I need to practice? I'm going to make my students do it at 50% of the speed. And if 100%. You're a teacher out there and you're not doing this is how you do it. This is how you do all the things. Okay, so 30 minutes of Sagat technique. And then next session will be 30 minutes focusing on footwork. And then I always do 30 minutes of shimmy. So that they happen in 30-minute chunks with a little 15-minute break. So you can come to one of them, you can come to all of them. Drop in, you pay for the session. It's really just stop what you're doing and dance for 30 minutes. And then the belly dance in the US course. And then I'm shooting some more material for Datura Online, hopefully, if the lockdown stuff can get under control. I also coach dancers one-on-one, so that takes up a good amount of my time. So yeah, so I kind of have a little bit of something for everybody. Very beginning, belly dance in the US, advanced to professional, I do coaching, and then the drill stuff so that we all can just take a break and move. Yeah, and doing all the things that we're doing in the pandemic days, like homeschooling your kid, thinking that you can build furniture. That's what I'm doing.
How does one find your drills? Is that from your website or is that on Datura? Where is that?
That's on my website. So I teach that live on Zoom. And yeah, all of my classes, my Zoom classes are listed on hennadances.com.
Do you have any other social media that people can find you?
I sure do. I have, thanks for asking. I have, I'm on Facebook as Heather Henna Louise. I also have a Facebook page. Those are still a thing. Henna Dances, and then I'm on Instagram as Henna Dances.
Well, that was Heather Louise. Heather, thank you so much for coming and talking with us this week. It was so much fun to get to know more about everything, all the projects that you're working on, and we look forward to seeing more from you in the future. But I'm Perizaad.
I'm Faizeh.
And if you haven't already, please give us a like, comment, or subscribe. Otherwise, we will see you next week. Masalama.
Masalama.